This trade buzz is starting to pick up. So I thought I would tap in here for Dub Nation on the latest rumors and talks, as well as the other big names that just may be moved around the league and some thoughts on those. Let's start with Michael Porter Jr., the name that has been linked to the Warriors the strongest over the last month. The latest from John Hollinger. Remember, he was the former Grizzlies GM. I think was he in San Antonio. He has a lot of front office connections, even though he's no longer working within the league. He said it is a lock for Michael Porter Jr. to be moved. There were some other rumblings from some people that cover the Nets, even saying that it's a done deal. The Warriors and Nets have already worked out a deal, and that would feed into my theory of Kuminga being shut down. There's already a deal in place, right? I know, like, a lot of you complaining about, oh, Kuminga didn't play against Atlanta the other day, and like, hello, Kuminga's not playing for the Warriors again, y'all. Like, I don't know, he's not playing anymore. He's not a part of the rotation. He's not an option anymore. It's been agreed upon, but that's the latest rumor is he's going to be traded. Now, whether it's to Golden State or not, I think is more of the question. Detroit is interested. I think a lot of contenders would be interested in the way he's playing. It sounds as though the sticking point for the Warriors deal is a second first-round pick. We already know the framework. Kuminga, Buddy, and Moody, a first-round pick. And the sticking point, again, would you throw in a second-round pick for Michael Porter Jr.? He's got one more year after this at 40-some mil, right? And he's having an all-star year. He's 27 years old. So, to me, this is where you say, all right, I probably don't want to do that. The Steph factor. The Steph factor. Steph is having one of his best statistical years of his career in his age 37 season. Defensively, he's been really good. He's working the mid-range. He's getting to the line more than he ever has. Like, the way Steph looks, I don't know about you, but I'm throwing in the second first-round pick. I'm throwing it in there. If you're a Warrior fan and you live outside of the Bay Area, and so you got to catch a Warrior game in an opposing arena, we're all used to that Warrior tax, where Warrior games, there's so much more than other teams coming into your town and going to see them. And that's a cheat code that I'm figuring out, because there's plenty of other stars and teams I want to see, and you can get way better deals on seeing those teams. And of course, I'm going to use SeatGeek, the #1 rated ticketing app. Over 35 million downloads, 70,000 live events. And they rate their tickets on a 1 to 10 scale, green being high, red being low. So you know the value you're getting. And I was looking here, Suns, Detroit. I want to see Cade and this young Pistons team, Asar Thompson. I think they got a real shot coming out of the East. And so, look, I'm not looking for anything courtside, but $46, I'll get the 2K view, right? And see these boys, and it's cheaper than ordering food to the door. So, I'm going to hook you up. I have a code for you guys, and you can use the code Alchemy10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeeks. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code Alchemy. Now, Marcus Thompson, MT2, as tapped in with the Warriors as anyone ever, right? Was on a podcast, and he suggested they're going to hold out for Giannis. They're going to still hold out for Giannis. The reason why they don't want to give up all these assets, they feel like, Porter Jr. is good and all that, but Giannis has been the apple of Joe Lacob's eye for going on 5 years. We know that. And everyone's waiting. Is he going to hold the market up again? To me, I think it's foolish. And why I think it's foolish is because when you canvass the rest of the league, what they can offer is so much more than us. The only way that it makes sense is if they have some sort of inside information that Giannis is going to push his way to the Golden State. I don't think we can match other teams' assets if it's just a free-for-all. Milwaukee's going to take the best offer. The only way is if Giannis narrows the list down to, Miami, New York, Golden State, and then New York has no first-round picks, Miami, they're not going to come off Bam, and then boom, by process of elimination. I just think it's foolish. I'm done waiting on Giannis. I'm tired of it. But if that is the case, right? If the case is Porter Jr. isn't quite the caliber of player to give up the kitchen sink for, is Jaren Jackson Jr.? Because that's the latest this week. Rival executives, general managers, people around the league are like, well, you're trading Ja. Throw out Jaren Jackson Jr. Just blow it up. They like all these young guys, and it's just a reset, a hard reset in Memphis. And so, Memphis hasn't come out and said he's available like Ja, right? But it's like, well, you might as well blow this up, and Jaren Jackson has been somewhat disappointing, right? Is Jaren Jackson worth the kitchen sink? Because what you could offer Memphis is Kuminga, Moses, Will Richard. Listen, I think that is going to be like, as the calls pick up here, especially after Thursday, January 15th, and action really starts to happen, perhaps, teams are going to want Will Richard. He's on a second-round pick contract for 4 years. He damn near looks like a starter. Like, that's going to be hard to negotiate. But you could give him Kuminga, Moses, Will, and 2 first-round picks for Jaren Jackson Jr. His extension is just going to kick in next season. Defensive Player of the Year. Look, I don't think you're ever going to solve his foul issues. He is maybe the goofiest good player in the league. It's between him and Karl Towns, and there are similarities where I don't think you're going to solve the foul issues. That's forever going to be an issue. However, I do think Jaren Jackson could be far more efficient playing with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. When you watch Memphis and their tempo, and it's like the context of his efficiency, you're like, oh, he's not shooting the three well. But when you watch Memphis, he's taking these transition-paced quick shots, these weird float shots. Like if he got settled in to our system, I think he'd be a lot more efficient offensively. Obviously, he's an elite rim protector, and you roll out a lineup of Steph, Melton, Jimmy, Draymond, Jaren Jackson Jr., and there goes our size issues, kind of, right? So would you do that? I think I would. I think we're all just desperate for a big move and a change, right? So even if it is more of a gamble, or how risky it is, like, that'd be tough to give up Will. But that would be. That's essentially, no, I'm not going to give Jaren Jackson that much credit. I was going to say that's essentially adding like a younger, healthy Anthony Davis. He's not as good as Anthony Davis. He's not, but he's of that ilk. He's of the same archetype. He's younger. More importantly, he's durable, right? But while we're talking about Memphis, Ja is all but of a lock to be traded, right? It's official. And you look at the teams, people are saying, you look at what Trae Young went for, not even a first-round pick. Memphis isn't going to get much for Ja. Like, the market is not very big. Toronto sniffing around a lot of players here. They could offer quickly RJ Barrett. I don't think it makes sense for Toronto. They don't have enough shooting for it to make sense. Like Ja, Scotty Barnes, they have all these like wing athletes who aren't really shooters. I don't know why they would do that. And I don't think that Quickly or Barrett is that intriguing for Memphis. The Clippers, now that they're winning, I don't know how aggressive they're going to be, but 2 weeks ago, it sounded like the Clippers were ready to blow everything up. They could offer John Collins, Bogey. I'm sure they're maybe a first-round pick. I don't know. If Trae didn't go for one, people are saying Ja is worth less than Trae because of the off-the-court issues, right? So I don't know. I think Miami's trying to offload that Rozier contract, right? And then they could give up one of their nice younger players, a rookie. The rookie, they got that big guard or maybe Jaquez, right? But if I'm Memphis, I'm like, no, you got to come off Hero. I think Hero, Miami and Memphis are kind of running that same pace system without the pick and rolls. It'd be funny if Ja ended up going there, right? I think Miami is probably, they're always going to be in the mix, but it feels like Ja is destined for Sacramento, doesn't it? It just feels like he can go out there, bust his guns in peace. You know what I'm saying? And no, I don't know. I don't know where Ja's going to end up, but from everything that's being put out there, the return is going to be shockingly low. Probably no draft capital. And again, listen to the players we're talking about: John Collins, Emmanuel Quickly. Not to shit on them, but Ja Morant was considered a superstar 2 years ago. Last but not least, y'all saw the cover, right? Did that get you to click? Did y'all saw the cover? Hey, I didn't make this up. I ain't make this up. The Lakers have checked in on Jonathan Kuminga last summer and continue to monitor him. The last time the Warriors and Lakers made a trade was 2014. It was Steve Blake for Kent Bazemore. And why I bring that up is it's been over 10 years. Like the Warriors and Lakers typically don't deal with each other. You typically don't see teams in the same division trade with each other, right? However, the Lakers, JJ Redick is at the edge. He is on the edge, bro. I'm waiting. Did I not say this? If y'all go back to, the first week of the season, headed into the season, I was like, I cannot wait for them to figure out who Ayton is. And I'm telling you, JJ right now is going to crash out. And we're just watching him, inch closer and closer to the edge. But hey, if they're interested in Kuminga, and I'm not saying that this would be, a priority trade for the Warriors. This would obviously be not maybe last resort, but one of them. Would you take Rui Hachimura and Dalton Connect? Now, Rui is shooting like 45% from three. He's become a corner expert. He's got the mid-range game. He's big, right? You're adding two big shooters. However, Rui is kind of a bozo defensively. Not kind of, he is a bozo defensively. He just has no feel defensively and no real want to lock in. So that is a problem. But offensively, he would force Kerr to have more size on the floor, and he can score. You could play him with Draymond and Jimmy. He's a far better shooter than Kuminga. Dalton Connect changes scenery. I still have hope for him. Like it's gone so south, obviously the failed trade and everything, but again, another size shooter that would force our lineups to be bigger. And then what is, I don't know about the Kuminga thing. And you just heard JJ say last night, we're the worst shooting team in the league. I don't know how Kuminga necessarily solves that. It would be a future move for the Lakers, I suppose. But if you didn't like that deal and you wanted to go more defensively with the deal with the Lakers, would you take Vando and Gabe Vincent for Kuminga? Now, Vando is a dude, and not many guys like him. I don't know if you want to bring him into the locker room. He's just like, he's an irritant, right? He's an irritant. He's kind of the Dylan Brooks mold as far as, he's not as good as Dylan, but, he gets in guys' faces, he chirps. But when he's on your side, you feel differently about it. But that would give us a big wing defender, a guy that can guard up and down the lineups. Now, he's going to be suspect standing in the corner shooting threes. That's going to be an issue. Again, you're leaning towards the defensive side of things. Gabe Vincent, I don't know what you do with him. Gabe Vincent can't stay healthy, so it's more so for Vando. But those would be my thoughts as far as if there was some sort of miraculous Warriors-Lakers deal. One more name that I've heard thrown out there is Jeremy Grant. Now, Portland is rumored to be shopping Drew Holiday and Rob Williams. Rob Williams, I've discussed it before. I can't. The durability issue, it was that finals when they rolled him out there on the meniscus, man. He's never been the same. Drew, again, durable. That's why they're shopping those two, because they don't fit their timeline and they're never available. But what about Jeremy Grant? Jeremy Grant has had a bounce back year for Portland. And honestly, he would be the closest thing to Wiggins. He would be a Wiggins replacement. And you could send Kuminga, Moses for him in Dupe Ruth. I kind of like Dupe, if I could get his name right. I don't know, again, if Portland would even deal with the Warriors after the GP2 fiasco. And what I'd say is this: Jeremy Grant is a little better than Wiggins offensively and probably not as good defensively, but they're the same built and would play the same exact role. So that's the latest. Would y'all give up 2 firsts for Michael Porter Jr.? Are you still holding out for Giannis? Would you even deal with the Lakers? And if you wouldn't give up 2 for Porter Jr., would you for Jaren Jackson Jr.? A lot of juniors in the league. Anyway, We got Portland tonight. 9 o'clock start here in Arizona is crazy. So don't expect a video tonight on this one, even if it is a good game. And I think it's going to be a good one. I told you, we owe Portland. Avdia came up with a sore back the other night. I'm not sure if he's a go, but I expect a really good performance from the Warriors tonight, and I'll be back with that breakdown tomorrow. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.
The Cowboys get judged on process just as much as results when it comes to coaching hires, which has made the latest defensive coordinator search interesting. The list of known candidates for the position formerly occupied by Matt Eberflus is now up to 6. Vikings pass game coordinator Daronte Jones and Browns safeties coach Ephraim Banda interviewed on Friday. Broncos pass game coordinator Jim Leonhard met with the team on Saturday. Current Cowboys defensive line coach Aaron White-Cotton made his case on Monday. Dallas is now scheduled to interview former Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon, as well as Ravens defensive coordinator Zach Orr on Tuesday. Gannon had been the skipper in Arizona since the 2023 season. Despite a dismal 15-36 record overall, Gannon notched 2 of his signature wins over the Cowboys. The first came in 2023's Week 3, with the Cardinals pounding a depleted Cowboys squad 28-16 in a game that was never as close as the score suggested. It was Gannon's first win as a head coach. The Cards did it again in Week 9 this season, embarrassing Dallas by a 27-17 count behind backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett in front of a Monday night primetime audience. It would, coincidentally, be Gannon's final win as Arizona's head coach, as the team lost their final 9 contests of the season. Expert NFL picks, exclusive betting insights only at USA Today. The 43-year-old was fired last Monday, but is expected to be a popular interview for several open positions around the league, including Washington's defensive coordinator role and Tennessee's head coaching gig. The playoffs so far have proven that coaching matters, as the Cowboys continue to work their staff going into year 2 under Brian Schottenheimer. First-year head coach Brian Schottenheimer did manage to invigorate the Cowboys' offense in 2025. Dak Prescott had perhaps his best season yet. Dallas had a pair of 1,000-yard receivers in CeeDee Lamb and a 1,000-yard rusher in Javonte Williams. The Cowboys scored 471 points for the season, the 4th highest in the team's 66 seasons in the NFL. The offense wasn't the issue. The defense clearly was, though, giving up the most points in franchise history at 5-11, which is why defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was fired last week, with Schottenheimer calling the plays. Offensive coordinator Clayton Adams could focus on improving the Cowboys' rushing attack. Adams had been an offensive line coach with the Colts and Cardinals since 2019. He made those teams' running games rock solid. He did it again this year in Dallas. Ken Dorsey joined Dallas as a pass game specialist this year after serving as an offensive coordinator in Buffalo and Cleveland. Prescott's numbers this season were similar to the success Josh Allen enjoyed with the Bills under Dorsey in 2022 and 2023. All 3 coaches are expected to return in 2026. That bodes well for another solid performance by the Cowboys offense this fall. If Jim Leonhard is the favorite, the Cowboys won't be able to hire him until the Broncos are eliminated from the playoffs. Cowboys insider Bobby Belt for Shannon RJ on 105.3. The Fan had an update Monday morning on where things stand with the team and their vacancy at the coordinator position. Here is what he texted Shan. Leonhard completed his virtual interview with Dallas on Saturday, with the Denver Broncos set to host the Buffalo Bills this week. The Cowboys will have to wait at least 1 week to move forward with Leonhard if he's their guy, assuming the Broncos lose Saturday. Until then, that doesn't mean the team can't continue interviewing other candidates to make sure there's no one else who could impress them more than Leonhard. Belt also mentioned Carolina Panthers pass game coordinator Jonathan Cooley as a potential name the team could request to interview. While nothing has been confirmed, Cooley fits the criteria Dallas appears to be looking for in its next defensive coordinator. Leonhard, Daronte Jones, and now Cooley are all involved in the passing game. Ephraim Banda, the Cleveland Browns safeties coach, also has experience working with the secondary. By the end of the season, Jerry Jones was open about how much he was disappointed in the secondary play this year. The playoffs so far have proven that coaching matters as the Cowboys continue to work their staff going into year 2 under Brian Schottenheimer. First-year head coach Brian Schottenheimer did manage to invigorate the Cowboys' offense in 2025. Dak Prescott had perhaps his best season yet. Dallas had a pair of 1,000-yard receivers in CD Lamb and a 1,000-yard rusher in Javonte Williams. The Cowboys scored 471 points for the season, the fourth highest in the team's 66 seasons in the NFL. The offense wasn't the issue. The defense clearly was, though, giving up the most points in franchise history at 5-11, which is why defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was fired last week, with Schottenheimer calling the plays. Offensive coordinator Clayton Adams could focus on improving the Cowboys' rushing attack. Adams had been an offensive line coach with the Colts and Cardinals since 2019. He made those teams' running games rock solid. He did it again this year in Dallas. Ken Dorsey joined Dallas as a pass game specialist this year after serving as an offensive coordinator in Buffalo and Cleveland. Prescott's numbers this season were similar to the success Josh Allen enjoyed with the Bills under Dorsey in 2022 and 2023. All three coaches are expected to return in 2026. That bodes well for another solid performance by the Cowboys offense this fall. The Dallas Cowboys' search for a new defensive coordinator might end as soon as one team ends its run in the NFL playoffs. There were reports that they had an early favorite in Jim Leonhard, who is currently employed as an assistant head coach and defensive pass game coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Now, a team insider is saying the front office might already have its guy. During Monday's edition of Shannon RJ on 105.3 The Fan, Shan Sheriff said he asked Bobby Belt for any updates on the search for Matt Eberflus's replacement. He was told there was no update, but believes the Cowboys are waiting for the Broncos to end their postseason run so they can hire Leonhard. I texted Bobby last night and I said, is there any update, any movement? And he said, nope. They wrapped those 3 interviews. We'll probably submit more today or tomorrow. Would not be surprised if they request Jonathan Cooley from the Panthers, but I think Jim Leonhard will be their guy, so they have to wait for Denver to get bounced before they can hire him. Dallas has been zeroed in on coaches with experience in the secondary, with Brian Schottenheimer saying he wants someone who is a good teacher. That sums up Leonhard, who is praised for the way he communicates with his players. The past 5 defensive coordinators in Dallas have all been former head coaches, and while Dan Quinn was a great hire, the rest have been hit and miss. This year, the Cowboys have cast a much wider net and are speaking with candidates who have yet to serve as defensive coordinators. As we saw with Schottenheimer and offensive coordinator Clayton Adams, this can be a great thing. Having young and fresh minds in the coaching ranks is a change for the Cowboys, making the possible addition of Leonhard feel like a breath of fresh air. And you, fan, what do you think about Jim Leonhard's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments. Moses Moody has started for the Golden State Warriors in 25 of the past 28 games, but there's now a distinct possibility that the fifth-year wing is in his final days as a member of the franchise. Rumors of a potential Michael Porter Jr. are now going into overdrive, and it's rather difficult to see how the Warriors could possibly move for the Brooklyn Nets forward without including Moody and his $11.6 million salary. There is growing anticipation over Jonathan Kuminga's trade eligibility on Thursday, with the Nets only fueling speculation by resting Porter from Sunday's loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. Moody, meanwhile, did play on Sunday against the Atlanta Hawks, but recorded just 2 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist in 17 minutes in the 124-111 loss at Chase Center. Unlike a prominent target like Trey Murphy III, who is making just over Kuminga's $22.5 million salary, Porter's $38.3 million deal will seemingly require the addition of Moody and veteran sharpshooter Buddy Hield, with Golden State also sending draft capital and potentially getting another player back the other way. The irony in this is that Moody, who like Kuminga has dealt with an inconsistent role and playing time through his first 4 years, has finally found a solidified starting role. Yet it's now above any other time that his spot on the roster is most vulnerable. While Moody has been solid this season and contributed to Golden State winning 8 of their past 12 games, he also hasn't quite taken the step to ensure himself a guaranteed part of the franchise's future. He's averaging career highs in minutes, points, rebounds, assists, and steals, while shooting 36.9% from three-point range on nearly 6 attempts per game. Despite these numbers, Steve Kerr has rightfully preferred DeAnthony Melton and at times even rookie Will Richard in closing lineups. With Kuminga and Hield out of the rotation altogether, it's essentially about upgrading the Moody spot in the starting lineup with a player like Porter. If the Warriors can't execute a deal for Porter, likely because the Nets are asking for too much from a draft capital standpoint, then there's a good chance that Moody remains. But if John Hollinger's report of Porter being a lock to be traded comes to fruition, it may well be to the Warriors and prove the end of Moody's time with the franchise.